Welcome to the Discover Hip Hop Podcast. I'm your host, Lewis Grant, and it's a Sunday today, so it is, of course, a guest episode. And let me tell you guys, today we're talking to a really awesome guy out of fucking Brisbane, man. He's been making moves in the Brizzy scene for a while now, a few years, recording and putting out music on Spotify and SoundCloud for a few years as well. And he's been making some fucking killer moves, bro. He's got tracks with fucking Young Huskii, he's got tracks with Chef Sheedz, tracks with Lil Sknow as well, man. And he's put out a fucking album recently too that is an absolutely killer album, man. This guy, you know, in this episode we talk all about plenty of advice for up and coming artists. You know, this man, he's got a lot of good advice, a lot of good insight into how you can sort of navigate your way into through networking and into getting into live shows and putting on your own shows and all sorts of stuff like that, man. So he's got a head full of advice and you guys get to pick his brain in this episode. We also touch on his unique journey and how he's sort of become the artist he is today, what that process has been like for him, and how he sort of found that in terms of challenges and the parts that he's enjoyed as well. Man, and we also touch on some topical issues. You know, we talk about the fact that Huskii is struggling to put on shows in his own hometown. We talk a little bit about 1-4 as well. So yeah, man, this is a great episode. I've been waiting for a long time to put this one out, and I'm very, very excited to get it out there in the world, man. So sit back and relax and discover Timos. What's been happening anyway? How's your day?
Good, man, good. I actually work fly out in the mines, man. So
true.
I'm off night shifts. I've just woke up this afternoon.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, man. I work week on, week off, so it's a bit of a blessing, to be honest, when it comes to making music anyway. I get a whole week off at home, man, and that's when I try to, get in the studio, make my music. At work's when I do my writing. So every week I'm normally coming back to Brisbane with a new little bag full of things I got to record. So
that's awesome. And I assume it gives you the money to do that too, right?
Yeah, most definitely, man. It gives me a lot of financial freedom to do that sort of thing. So, it's not, yeah.
Yeah, it's good, bro. I've considered doing it too, but I think I'm at a stage now where it wouldn't work. But I considered that as well. And I know a bunch of people that have considered that. And do you know the Alpha Blokes podcast?
Yes, I do, man. Yeah, I actually listen to them quite a bit. Yeah, they actually they work out in the area where we have worked out in the area where I work. So,
oh, cool. So you haven't bumped into them at all?
Haven't bumped into them, man, but very familiar with their stuff. Actually listen to it quite a bit, to be honest.
Yeah.
Very, very cool to see fellas come out of the industry and go do something, on the podcasting, I guess, man. Like, it's also like music podcast. Like it's a creative thing. You're creating something. So as opposed to carting coal out of a hole in the ground, it's very different.
Yeah. So that's what you do at the mines, is it?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
What does that involve? Like actually, on the floor.
Man, it's a whole lot less than what everyone chalks it up to be. I'm just a steering wheel attendant, man. I might as well be an Uber driver. But it's good, man. I get to, I set myself a goal every week. I come to work. I normally have 4 beats. I just have them running through the stereo and just cruise around in the truck. And just write. 12-hour shifts. It gives me, pretty well the opportunity to treat my music like it's a job, really. So
that's mad.
Yeah, that's good work.
Are you driving one of those, like, I forget the actual name for them, but they're like absolutely massive trucks? Yeah, right.
Yeah,
because I did. I did my Bobcat and excavator training a while ago, and they were telling me that they're running training for those trucks. And I never ended up doing it because they said you'd have to pay for it. But it's something I thought about because exactly like what you're saying, like the actual work that you're doing, it's all the risk, right? You're getting paid for the risk because the actual work you're doing, just driving the truck, as long as you got your head screwed on, it's pretty straightforward. And you can spend that time thinking of whatever you want. Yeah,
definitely, man. It'd be probably, it's a very mind-numbing job unless you've got something to keep your mind active. I'm pretty lucky in the sense that I've got something that I'm fucking pretty obsessed with. So yeah. Other than that, yeah, man, just cruise around in my dump truck for the week and then make my way home back to Brizzy.
Yeah, nice.
That's good, man. It's good. Keeps me busy. Keeps the bills paid.
Yeah, exactly, bro, for sure. So yeah, you were saying obsessed, like with the music, right? So like, I agree. Like, I'm obsessed with this. You know what I mean? It's all I think about. It's this and that, and it's like, but what do you think that is that because not everyone, well, most people aren't obsessed with stuff. You know what I mean?
I think, man, even before I was making music, I was just always a real obsessive hip hop head, man, especially with the Oz scene. I think I think I probably went like a 12-month period where I only listened to Australian hip hop. Like, um, I just love the old school Aussie stuff, the stuff I sort of grew up on, man. And for ages I've always written music, but it took my missus being like, why don't you fucking go record something, And I was like, yeah, I'll give it a crack. And after I jumped in the booth a couple of times, I was just like, nah, this is for me, And once you sort of start to, like, originally I just had like the goal, I just wanted to release an album and have an album on a CD, and I'd be proud of that. That was my goal. And then I started doing shows, and then the goals change. You set higher goals, and it just becomes it's a part of sort of who I am now, man. Regardless of how far it gets me, I'm not doing it to get to a certain point, man. I just do it because I love doing it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. It's like I can imagine it's addictive, right? Like the thrill of being on stage and having people sort of just
most
really,
definitely.
Yeah.
It's just the like the adrenaline from on stage, man. Just I just enjoy even the creative process, man. Just the feeling of when you're always going to be very critical of what you make, but every time that you sort of one up yourself, you get that little that little bit of a feeling. You're like, oh yeah, all right, that's my new best shit. And then you just keep chasing that feeling. You keep wanting, And then hip hop's a blood sport, everyone wants to be the best. So I'm out here trying to do that,
Fuck yeah. Yeah, but you were talking before, you were saying that your missus gave you the push to get into recording music. And because I actually wondered that, because I had a look at your discography and it sort of goes back to last year. And then I thought, oh, there's probably some like earlier stuff on SoundCloud. I checked out SoundCloud, but it's the same thing. So like, have you actually only been recording since last year?
I'd say professionally, man, yeah. In studios only since last year. A couple of the tracks that I have on my discography from earlier dates, man. I used to record a lot of my own stuff and just upload on SoundCloud, unmixed and mastered. Had no idea about anything. I tried making beats, couldn't make beats. I'm not too good with a computer, but yeah. When I I got onto my producer Sneezy through Instagram, by luck, shout out Sneezy, and he I got him at like I originally I bought 3 beats. I think it was for my first EP I released, and I think I wrote those 3 tracks in a month. And I went in and recorded those. And I was like, oh man, these sound so much better than that unmixed and mastered stuff that I had up. So I just took all that stuff down and just wanted to take things a bit more seriously. And still I spent, I'd say, it's been about just over 12 months since I've started properly releasing music, but I've spent a lot of that time still publicly learning and finding my sound. It's probably only in the past 6 months or so that I've really found my sound. But I think it's been a pretty expansive journey for myself. It's been very fast, just in the sense of how much time I spend on it. I think I'm noticing that a lot too, with how fast my progression's gone, I suppose, with exposure for gigs and working with different dudes. With always being a fan of the scene, I've always sort of had a bit of a toe in with being able to talk to certain people that were already involved in the music scene and knowing people. So I think I benefit a lot off that. But yeah, man, I've been taking it seriously for just over a year now. I think it was August, or it might have been August or June, July last year was when I first dropped that first EP.
That's crazy, man. It's so, because your music is so polished and it's so it's just so full, you know what I mean? There's a lot of artists out there, and this is no knocking to anyone, everyone's got their own journey, everyone's got their own progression and stuff. But a lot of guys, like their earlier stuff on Spotify, it's just not up at that standard, you know what I mean? But so much of your music, bro, I put in my library, you know what I mean? Like they're just good tracks. And I know it's not your most recent and it's not my favorite, but it's always stuck in my head, that Ethanol. The 2 Sticks, Travis Barker, Be a Dead Dog if he arc up. Like it's just something about that. It's so catchy, bro. But and it's go on.
I was gonna say, I lost my train of thought. But man, it's funny thing about that track. That's actually I uploaded the wrong the wrong mix and master for that. So
Oh,
I'm not
really?
100% a fan of that track. Then the stream started going up, and people liked it. So I was like, all right, I better leave it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I really like that one, bro. So what's the difference with the other mix and master?
Just my cadence, man. I'm not a big fan of my cadence on the track, but I think yeah, it is what it is now. It's what it is. People like it, so
Yeah, no, it's good, bro. I like that one. What else was gonna ask you? I was gonna, yeah. So you were talking about your style as well, and how you kind of found your sound,
yeah,
more recently. You know, which is actually interesting because when I was listening to your discography, I kind of thought, like I can definitely, you can sense that you've, I guess, settled, in the more recent sort of music. But I was surprised by how quickly it seemed that you did sort of find that sound. Like a lot of your music has stayed in a similar style, whereas a lot
yeah.
of artists I've noticed will, have to try a bunch of different styles before they really find that one that suits them. Like, have you always known that that's the sound style that you were going for?
Most definitely, man. But in a sense of like, I know, going back to what you're saying, how you know, I've always written music maybe since 2015, 2016, and I've always sort of like I've known how to write a 16. I've known how to write a hook. So I suppose that's how it probably does come across as polished. But I suppose it's just finding, you know, the type of beats that I wanted to, because at the end of the day, you can jump on a trap beat, we can go to do boom bap. I didn't. It's the same thing with an album. You don't want an album that's half trap, half boom bap. In my opinion, you want it to seem cohesive and play through. I always think that music's meant to, if you're going to consume an album, you want to be able to listen to it front to back, and you want it to work with itself as opposed to working against itself. But yeah, I always just keep going back to. I just keep taking myself back to the roots of like the type of music I like, which is the traditional boom bap. But I just love the grimy music, man. And I wanted to sort of bring that modern sort of grimy essence, I suppose, to that traditional boom bap sound, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, nice, bro. Yeah, I resonate a lot with the boom bap as well. I get like I mean, there's not a lot of hip hop that I don't like, to be honest. Like, I mean, a lot of the drill we're seeing these days, I talk about it too much, man. I'm like, I bring it up nearly every episode, but I just a lot of the drill is not for me. I think it's a bit basic, relies on the beat too much. Some guys do it really well.
Yeah,
But I think a lot of guys are just trying to ride that wave. But I love that boom bap sound, and I'd say other than boom bap, the main one that I like a lot is that fucking jazz kind of samples in hip hop. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
man.
yeah.
I yeah, I'm the same. Like I like I find I wouldn't be able to put a finger on a style of hip hop that I don't like, and I think
Mm.
that's probably why I did struggle with not struggle, but why it did take me a little bit of time to find my sound, because I love it all, man, and I had to come to terms with the fact that I can't make it all.
Mm.
Um, I've got to be able to sort of settle on a sound that works and a sound that I enjoy making. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, I like the drill for it's got some nice hype energy and whatnot, but
Mm.
when it comes, like, if you want to look at styles of hip hop or subgenres of hip hop, there's always one style that's always lasted and always will, and that's boom bap.
Mm. Yeah, 100%, bro. 100%. It's been around since the start, and it's always going to be around because it's so versatile too, right? You can rap about anything on a boom bap beat. There's no
Yeah,
restrictions. Yeah.
exactly, man. And it's very diverse in the sense of drill. I mean, or not even just drill. I mean, even like Afro or something. It can only come with a certain energy sometimes. So um,
Mm.
boom bap's very diverse in that, I suppose.
Mm. Definitely. Definitely. Um, a while ago, and I can edit this out if you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, that's no
And
worries.
and also I can edit out like the name or whatever if you don't want that mentioned. But a while ago, you posted. It was not long after I first sort of came across you. I think you posted a thing saying that it's all cool if people want to promote your music, but if you're gonna like badmouth
Yeah.
LGBTQ or something, like what happened there?
Oh, I just had a young fellow that's running a promotional page. I won't name names. I've spoke to him since, and we've sort of had a conversation about it. But I think he just holds some pretty extremist political views, and he was promoting his promoting my recent album on his page, sort of in the same breath of I suppose sharing a lot of his political views, and I'm I'm the type of person where if you're not a very well educated person, if you can't disagree with someone and still respect them. I'm not going to show disrespect towards someone for holding their views, but I didn't want my music to be held in the same breath as sort of the message he was trying to convey. And I suppose I probably shared that story a little bit hot headed, where I could have just contacted him, but he reached out and he just said that, yes, I apologize for that, man, just because, you know, I've got a lot of friends that of all different shapes, size, and colors, all parts of every community, you know, and I don't want my music to be conveyed in that manner.
Because that's the trouble, right? Like it probably wasn't his intention, but if his story has this view and your music one after the other, it's gonna sort of seem like that they're tied together, even though he may not have meant that, you know.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, you know. And yeah, at the end of the day, we're all human, man, and you know, even like I you just got to take the time and look at it from other people's perspective. From his perspective, he's just shared information after information. There's no controversy in that because that's his opinion, you know. So, whereas I looked at it in a different perspective, and I think he came to understand that after just a bit of a conversation.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's cool that it's all sorted out as well. Because when I saw you post that, I was just, I haven't like, I was shocked that kind of is still around. I guess maybe there's a bit of an echo chamber thing with my social media, but it's just everyone that I have anything to do with, no one really has an issue with LGBT. Like, it's do whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really, I guess I have a few people that maybe are involved in the community, but I really don't have much to do with it at all. But I just personally don't see there's people that do some fucking weird shit, man. You know what I mean? People are into fucking crazy stuff. You know, there's furries out there. You know about furries?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, as much as I think that's some crazy fucking shit, and I don't get it at all. It's like, why would I care that you want to do that? You know?
That's right.
But I guess people are just raised different, you know, and different situations, different upbringings, different. Yeah.
That's right. I think a lot of it comes off the back of too, man. Like, a lot of people forget how much influence they have, or, you know, how much just being one of these high profile people and having you know, a platform to share some of these wild opinions impacts a lot of young people. And man, I think a lot of it just comes off Spanian. I don't know if you've watched Spanian stuff a fair bit, but he's, you know, pedophile hunting with Balenciaga. Like, he's he ties a lot of, jumps to a lot of extremist conclusions, and I think that's impacted a lot of young fellas that listen to a lot of his stuff and created these, I suppose, ulterior perspectives, I guess.
Yeah, that's an interesting like sort of issue, I guess you could call it. Is like, do you think that people with those higher profiles and more influence, do they have some degree of responsibility in, you know what I mean? Because it's like, on one hand, they didn't ask for the responsibility, and all they're doing is, you know, for example, let's just say that they're a musician. Like, all they want to do is make music. But then on the other hand is, it kind of inherently comes with that, is once people start looking up to you, there's that level of responsibility to be a role model, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a fine line. You know, at the end of the day, we're all still human, and, you know, the Oz music scene's quite low budget. No one's PR trained. Like, and a lot of these dudes, especially, you know, when it comes to, you want to, like, with the likes of, like, what's been going on with 1-4 or Huskii, like, how the police are sort of blaming them for a lot of the knife crime or street violence or whatever. And you can't make people responsible for that. I mean, mate, I think it's a bit different if people are spreading like a hateful message or trying to incite certain behaviour to a certain degree. But at the end of the day, mate, if Pablo Picasso painted a picture and it was about killing himself, and a whole heap of people went and killed themselves, he wouldn't be made responsible for the suicide rate. I don't know how 1-4 is somewhat responsible for all of the street crime that the New South Wales Police government is trying to, you know, pinpoint them for.
Yeah. It's an interesting issue, yeah. And I don't really have a definitive perspective on it, to be honest with you, because I kind of see both sides. It's like,
yeah,
but it's also very hard to gauge like how much, like you can't really gauge how much 1-4 has directly had an impact on any sort of crime. Like, how do you actually measure that? It's kind of just assumptions, you can't really.
that's right. And I mean, if how far if that's the narrative that I'm not sure if it's anywhere else in Australia. I know it's very heavy in New South Wales, but we'll say New South Wales for now. Like, if the New South Wales government want to follow that narrative that it's 1-4's responsibility to well, they're the ones being held accountable for what's been going on with the knife crime and street violence or cars being stolen, the theft rate. Then you can draw the lineage to, all right, well, they're only innocent young fellas from Mount Druitt that were influenced by the UK drill scene. So we're going to ban all UK drill artists from Australia as well.
Mm.
So I don't know. It's a hard one. But I think I don't think it's right trying to force these guys into paying $30,000 in security to try hold a venue, and that's a means of them making an income outside of the kind of behaviour that the New South Wales government's trying to prevent.
Mm. I completely agree with that. Yeah, I guess, I should be like clearer on what I was saying before about not having a definitive perspective. Is one thing I do have a definitive perspective on is that Australia is supposed to be a free country. And so you should not be putting in measures because like they're technically not saying that you can't perform, but they basically are, because they're putting in an outrageous price on it, So if you're gonna call Australia a free country, which I think we are calling that a free country, you can't be discriminating against any kind of musical act, making it easier or harder for anyone. Like, everyone should be allowed to perform on any level. 100%. Yeah,
most definitely. I don't think it's something that's going to last forever. I think, as a lot of people have crawled in the past in the music scene, so the rest of us can walk. Unfortunately, I think 1-4 and the likes of Huskii are going to be the fellas that are going to have to crawl, so the rest of us can walk. We've got a Netflix documentary coming out. I look forward to watching it. Be interested, man. But they're going to be made martyrs. If they think they can stop them, I don't think they're going to be stoppable. As long as they're persistent, man, they don't stop doing what they're doing. I think it's going to, write them in the history books. So I don't necessarily see it as a negative thing. They're going to become Australia's NWA.
Definitely, bro. 100%, because I'm not going to say that it's like on the same level or that it's the same thing, because obviously there's different issues that were causing it and stuff at the time for NWA, but it's certainly the same principle, which is not allowing a certain person to perform in a quote unquote free country. You know what I mean? And exactly what you said, I agree. I think it'll go down in history. And if done right, like from the perspective of 1-4 and Huskii, they can certainly turn it into a positive. If they can certainly just use it for media coverage and then attract their audience. They're not going to attract, obviously, the people that disagree with what they do, but everyone that does agree with what they have to say and does relate to their lyrics and stuff, they're going to be drawn to that, and they could potentially blow up even more.
Yeah, most definitely, man. I couldn't agree more. It's just an interesting concept, man. I never pictured something like that, happening. I mean, once upon a time when it was, Brad Strutt and 750 Rebels and all these old school Aussie guys in their generation, I suppose they dealt with a lot of that stuff too, because they struggled to find a venue that would hold a hip hop gig, because a lot of it was graffiti orientated. There was graph beef in the scene. There was, and I think, a lot of those gigs were of that energy, where you would probably compare it to what the policing's trying to prevent nowadays. And nowadays it's not even happening, I haven't heard of, I think there was one riot for a Huskii show in Brisbane going back a couple of years. Other than that, though, I haven't heard of any, direct incidences that have come off of gigs. It's just interesting to think about, I suppose.
Definitely, yeah. And it's important to think and talk about as well, because you can't allow the government or anyone for that matter to put measures like this into place and to not have an issue with it. You know what I mean? To just allow it and move on. Like, you can't do that. Otherwise, they're just going to they're going to realize that they can do that, and anything they don't like, they're just going to shut down. And that's like why I asked you before on your story, you know, if you think that there's any chance of us moving closer to a communist like thing, because, or even not even just communist, even if you just want to say a government that has more control over us, because whenever things like this happen, it does worry me, because if there's not enough sort of pushback against it, that's what's going to start happening. You know what I mean?
Most definitely, man. I think censorship is definitely going to be something that, you know, music's going to struggle with in the future. Everyone's skin's getting a lot thinner and thinner, and finding ourselves having to walk on eggshells a lot more. It's interesting, man. I think it's definitely going to be a battle that we're going to have, but hopefully it's something that, you know, we can sort of stay away from.
Do you ever worry that with like some of the lyrics in your music, do you ever worry that there's ever going to be that issue with you? And I don't mean that in any sort of I resonate with the lyrics in your music, but there's people, like you said, with thin skin that can take offense to stuff like
that. Yes and no, man. But I've never really made music in a sense of concerning what people have sort of. I've never really made music for an audience. I've always just made music that I like to listen to, so I've always never really thought too deeply into the sense of, you know, it's definitely there, like with terminology I use and stuff like that. I don't want to, you know, offend anyone, but I'm still just going to make the music I make, man. And I mean, if it ever comes to the stage where I do have to deal with something along those lines, I suppose that's just a bridge I'm going to have to cross. I don't really want to sacrifice any of my creative control in a sense of trying to fit a mold.
Yeah, that's good. But it's important to have that mindset. There's a lot of, I don't know if you follow comedy much, but comedy is under the similar sort of pressure that
most definitely,
So you follow comedy a bit.
Yeah. There's a couple of busy dudes, you know, shout out Julian Woods and a couple of those fellas, you know. That's what it's all about, man. Comedy's about pushing the boundaries, as is hip hop, you know. It's counterculture, you know. You want to shock people in the same sense. You want to make them laugh. You want to make them think differently. You want to be thought-provoking. I think some of the best comedy in the world, man, is stuff that makes you think at the same time it makes you laugh, you know. And you have to talk about controversial topics to be able to do that. Dave Chappelle's really good at it with his last special, where he speaks on a lot of trans issues and stuff like that.
Excellent, yeah.
I think he does it well too. You know, he jokes, he makes everyone laugh, but in the same sense, I don't think he offended anyone. I don't think he hurts anyone. But he also, you know, encourages a lot of thought-provoking behavior, you know.
Definitely, bro. I would agree with that in the sense that I don't think there's any real grounds for anyone to be offended by anything with what he said, but people always seem to be offended by what he says. But I think it just comes from a place of not actually taking the time to process what he's actually saying, you know, because if you actually process what he's saying, I don't remember it clearly, but I have watched that special and it was amazing. And he did talk a lot about trans issues, but he was talking from the place of having a really close friend that was experiencing, you know, this whole trans situation. And I took it as a very positive experience, you know, where we could all sort of learn something from. But so many, well, maybe it wasn't so many people, but it was at least a loud group of people that seem to have an issue with it. And I just think it's such a shame, you know, because it does actually paint everyone else in that community with a bad light, you know, having a few extreme perspectives speak out loudly. Yeah,
definitely. Now you can even just take a look at, you know, the way that Dave Chappelle sort of, I don't know the full story, man, but the process of, you know, how things went with the Chappelle show. You know, the deals that he turned down with Comedy Central. Man, he could have rode that till the wheels fell off. But a big thing that got in the way of that was his morality, you know. And you know, you can tell he's a very educated man. He's not silly.
Very, very smart. And he's so good at comedy, man. Every single thing I've ever seen him do is hilarious. I love his comedy so much. He's definitely one of my favorites. But you know, like to tie it back in with sort of what you were saying with your approach to your music and your lyrics and stuff, I think it's very important that comedians do the same thing. And there are a lot that do it, but there are a lot that also cave under that sort of pressure from everyone. And I think that's the very opposite of what we need to do, because as soon as you start doing that, it's the same thing that I was saying before that we were talking about with the Huskii show. If we sort of allow that stuff to happen, it's just going to keep going further and further. The pushback is so important. Yeah.
Most definitely. You know, boundaries need to keep being pushed, and you know that's the whole point. And you know, there's a big comedy and hip hop are very similar in the sense, you know, you're writing literature, you have a punchline. You want that punchline to have a punch. So you're going to, you know, you're going to structure it. So obviously it's not for everyone. It's never going to be for everyone. Even if you're an up and coming artist and you start making music for a crowd, Shadow 10 Ducats, he put a video on his story the other day, and very relevant. He's saying how, you know, back in the day, everyone used to want to get on the radio. So people tried to make radio music. Now the radio's sort of dead, but people are still trying to make music following a trend or following a sound to have that reach. And, you know, they're sacrificing individuality in hopes of, you know, chasing success or you know, accolades, where I don't think anyone in this country has been extremely successful being the second of a breed, being the second of a person. There's no really successful second cursor. There's no really successful second chilliner. There's no, you know,
definitely.
So you've got to push boundaries. You've got to fucking explore those uncharted waters. Otherwise, you know, look at all the big names. None of them are the second person to do what they're doing. So find what's you and make you the next big thing. It's not about, you know, conforming to what's popular or what's on the radio or what's on the playlist, because at the end of the day, it might work for a little while. But pop culture changes, and, you know, you can only ride a wave so long until it loses momentum.
Yeah. That's perfect, bro. That's a clip right there, 100%. It's summed up perfectly, you know what I mean? Because it's exactly right. Not only are you sacrificing your own creative, you know, expression and your own sound and your own, like, what's true to you, but you're also sacrificing longevity, because you're just riding a wave. And as soon as that wave is over, you're just going to, that's it. You're washed up, you know?
Most definitely, man. And
that's, I think, what a lot of my, I don't even want to say issues with drill, because I don't have issues with drill. When drill is done right and it's done well, like 1-4, like NME, like a lot of the UK guys, you know, when it's done well, it's really, really good. And what you said before about it being pumped up, like that's the thing that first stood out to me. When I heard my first drill track, I was like, holy fucking shit, like this, I've never heard this before. This is fucking mad. But then the problem is that, yeah, a lot of people try and ride that wave. And so 1-4 have pioneered that Aussie drill sound. And then you get a lot of people come in and try and do the exact same thing. You know what I mean? And it's just, and it gets repetitive and it gets boring and then that's when I start to lose interest in it, you know. I can't even remember what I was going to say before. But, I think just the fact that they're riding a wave, you know.
Yeah, I agree with it, man. And like, even, you know, in a sense of, to be specific to drill, I like music that's authentic. I've sat in studios and listened to dudes rap on drill beats, and, you know, I'm coming in for a session and there's someone just leaving the session and I'm hearing them rap about carrying a blade and selling eye, and they hop out of the booth, take the headphones off their head and sit down on the couch with their mate and say, hey man, do you mind if your mum could get us an Uber home? Like, I'm sorry, man, but like, there's, like I said, be authentic, be yourself. If you're, you know, you can make drill music that isn't about violence. If that's not your life, make music about you, because at the end of the day, if you tell a lie, you've got to remember that lie and stick to you've got to remember some sort of plot that you're trying to convey. If you're being genuine and you're being yourself, you don't have to remember anything. You're not making up a story for everyone. You're just being authentic in yourself. I think a lot of that gets lost in music now. You know, happens a lot in hip hop, always has, because, you know, hip hop has always had that, snide aggression, like I'm the best, I'm the toughest, I can do this, I can do that. And then you mix that with, people on the platform and get a lot of fake rubbish that comes out of the woodwork, I suppose.
Mm. And a lot of the times that bleeds through into the quality of the content as well. You can kind of tell, like, it's not that you can necessarily tell, but it doesn't feel the same a lot of the times when it's not coming from a real place. Like Complete, for example, bro, like in his storytelling and his emotion and everything in his lyrics, it's just so, like, I actually don't know whether a lot of it is true, but I mean, you almost do know just from the song itself because of how real it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you listen to his music and it just has a sense of genuinity. Like you, yeah, I think he's a very good MC, man, very talented, and I think that's why it resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, because I actually don't know exactly where I sit on this yet, but there's a lot of perspectives I find interesting. And it's kind of what you were just touching on then, is because I feel like with music in general, and particularly hip hop, there is a level of theatrical performance, right? Like there's often a level of exaggeration, or there's a level of, just like theatrical performance, because it is a job of an entertainer at the end of the day. So do you think there's a place for, you were saying that you like it when people create music that's authentic and true to them. Do you think there's a place for creating a song or creating music that you necessarily haven't lived, but you know what I mean? Is there a place where that can be authentic without it actually being something that they've experienced?
I definitely, I think so. As long as it's, I don't know. That's a hard one. I mean, the big difference, I think it comes down to what sort of context. As long as, whoever the artist may be, I think it depends on how controversial the topic is, or, if it was I think it just comes down to what sort of image that person's trying to
paint. I get you. Yeah, and I guess a lot of it could too be the intentions behind creating that piece, right? So that what you said kind of helped me realize this, and this might be, I think, where I sit, is it comes down to the intention behind why they're creating that piece, right? So you mentioned that guy that was in the studio rapping about stabbing people, this and that, and then wants to get an Uber home. His intention behind that, he's trying to ride a wave. He's trying to get quick, easy success or money or something.
And that, I don't think anything could come from that, because it puts him in a situation where people have a certain expectation. And, also in a sense, that could probably put him in some pretty dangerous situations too in public, I mean, if you want to paint yourself as the big tough bad guy, you're going to have to be the big tough bad guy. If you find there's always going to be a bigger, tougher bad guy. No one's the biggest, toughest bad guy. It's a hard one, but I think, going back to what you're saying, I think it's if someone's got good intentions of whether it's a theatrical storytelling song, or, like, for example, Dance with the Devil by Immortal Technique. That song's, I don't know if you're familiar with the song.
Definitely, yep.
So that song, he wasn't there. That he wasn't a part of that storyline.
Oh,
but that's a story that actually happened.
Right, I thought he was there.
No, he wasn't. No.
Interesting.
So, and he's just told the story on it, and gave us some theatrics. But the general intentions of that song are pure, to keep kids away from the street and to keep people out of that gang life, Whereas, if it was done in a different manner, I don't know if I'd be so supportive of, for example, of it, if that lack of genuinity was done in a different manner. But yeah, with pure intentions, I think there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And I mean, that song within itself is insane, bro. It's crazy. The first time I heard it, I only listened to it. The first time I heard it wasn't even that long ago, only like a year or so ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't get all the way through it because it was pretty intense. And then the second time I listened to it, I listened right through it, and I had the lyrics on the screen when I was doing it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're just speechless afterwards, man. It's so crazy that someone has lived that life. Like, that's just No one should ever have to live, and that's horrible for everyone involved. Like, it's not even just the guy; it's like his mom, everyone around him. It's just horrible. Yeah,
yeah, man. And I think it's like very high quality artistry in the sense of he's like everyone. If you've heard that song once, you've heard it 1,000 times. Everyone remembers that song. And it may not be the most pleasant song. It's definitely not the most pleasant song. It's definitely not the most pleasant subject matter. But I think, I suppose you can still feel his intentions with what he's doing. So being a sort of anti-streets song. But Immortal the Technique has a ridiculous discography. He's got some amazing music.
I haven't actually checked him out a lot, to be honest.
He's one of those artists that makes a lot of political music. He shares a lot of very political views, and he never sacrificed. Like, he's a very talented MC. Obviously, he could have put all that aside and wanted to make some radio music, and he probably would have been a millionaire. But that wasn't who he was. That wasn't his type of music.
Do you think a lot of the times, like, the people that are making radio music, I guess a lot in the pop genre, and do you think they are making what's true to them a lot of the time, or do you think that they're conforming?
Well, it's hard, man, because it depends on what sort of circumstance those people are in. If I know there's only a handful. There's not a great deal of people in Australia with deals, but I mean, if you've got a label that's breathing on your neck and they say, "All right, well, we want an album," and you can't even choose how many features you want to have on your album a lot of the time. So, it all depends whether they're in a situation where they have creative control, or whether they want to do it themselves. I think where Huskie's going with his music is a good example of just doing what he wants to do. And if you like it, you like it. I've heard some of his new album that's coming out. You can tell he's not following anything other than what he wants to do. I respect that a lot. I feel like that's what makes people fall in love with music, because it's you want it to be unapologetically you.
Definitely. I think that's important with art as a whole, like we were saying with comedy as well. There's a comedian that I follow, you may have heard of him, Lil Spears. And I think he's a great example of the kind of mindset that I think a lot of comedians should have. And that is that he's a comedian. He tells jokes. Sometimes his jokes aren't funny and they're offensive because he hasn't worked them out yet.
Yeah.
But it's just a joke. And he's always just making a joke. He's just trying to get a laugh. And a lot of the times they are hilarious, but some people get offended by them. And he was actually invited to go on a show on SBS once, and I watched it. And they were just talking about this topic, basically, and asking him, do you think that comedians should ever apologize for a joke that they made, whether it was funny or not, or offensive?
I think I've seen that, yeah.
And it was very good what he said. And to anyone out there that likes comedy, hip hop, or any of this sort of stuff, it's an excellent watch. If you just Google Lil Spears SBS, I'm sure it'll come up. And it's great, right? Because he just said, no, you shouldn't apologize. You're trying to tell jokes. Sometimes, like, as a comedian, your job is to push that line, like you were saying, is to, walk on that line of the edge, right? And sometimes you slip over the edge, and it's as simple as that. And you can't expect them to apologize for making a mistake,
Yeah, that's right. And people forget, man, a comedian's job is to make someone laugh, man. They're not radicalist hate speech enthusiasts. And we're all human. We can't all make amazing things all of the time. We're all going to trip and stumble here and there. We don't all deserve, people don't deserve to be ridiculed every time that they just don't hit the mark or fall short, or maybe don't do something exactly the right way, because it's human nature, man. No one's perfect all of the time. And if people are scared to try, it's going to affect the quality of comedy or music that we get.
Definitely. Absolutely. It is going to affect the quality. People are scared to put themselves out there 100%. People just reserve themselves, if you're scared to put yourselves out there for the fear of being ridiculed, It's not good, man. It's not good. But I think hopefully we're moving in a more positive direction with that. I think, we're kind of going through a period now where there's a lot of pressure and stuff on artists to conform. And I think with enough pushback, people will become aware that, that it's fine. They're just expressing themselves, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Yeah. I was going to ask you as well, what do you think, to take it back to your music a bit, what is your favorite project that you've made, that you've worked on?
My favorite project, man, probably other than my unreleased project I've been working on at the moment. It'd have to be Jingo, man. Just really finding where I'm at with my music. As I said, I like all music, but I think I've found where I sit, and it's a nice fine line between the old school Aussie hip hop and the newer generation. I've since releasing it, man, I've got a lot of love from sort of both sides of the scene, which at times can be pretty divided. But yeah, man, I'm very, very proud of that project.
Nice, man.
It only took me, the best part of 2 months to put together, really. Once I found my sound, man, the music's been writing itself. I'm probably sitting on another 20 tracks already, and I released it a month ago.
Nice, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. I love that one as well. I think I've got every song, or if not, it's nearly every song in my library. And it's, as you would know yourself from listening to music, it's not common that someone will put out an album and you resonate with every song. There's usually a couple or a few where you just don't vibe with. I really enjoyed that project, bro. And Mr. Ruckman too. I don't know. Do you know Mr. Ruckman?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Bro, have you heard his new album?
No, I haven't. I haven't had a chance to check it out.
I would 100% recommend it if you do get the time. It's beautiful, and it's like you were saying earlier, where you were saying that if you want to sit down and listen to an album, you believe it should be that you can listen from start to finish. And his album is 100% like that. It's truly an artwork, and it follows a storyline, and it's very well done.
But check it.
Yeah, bro. It's the same as with yours and with his, is where I've liked them all, because I just think, it's just it's an artwork within itself, which we don't see a lot of nowadays with the push for singles.
Yeah, definitely. You want to have sort of, a point of indifference between each track, but at the same time, you want them all to belong there together. In a sense of, like, a lot of dudes now won't release albums because of the way music's consumed now. No one's buying CDs. And, even for any artist listening will know what I mean. When you release an album, let's say it's a 10-track album, your first 5 tracks will have the most streams, because someone will check your album out and they'll listen to the first 5 tracks, and maybe 10% of your audience will listen to the whole album. Maybe 20% of your audience will listen to 80% of the album, and then so on and so forth. So I think a lot of guys are going for shorter projects now. A lot of fellas are calling, 6 to 8 track projects albums, because that's the way that the music industry is going now, because everyone has a shorter attention span, which I've considered doing myself. But now that I'm sort of writing so much music, I think I'd sort of just be doing myself a disservice, and I'd be having tracks left lying around all over the place that I wouldn't know what to do with. So I think I'll just stick to, the good size album, and, the people that want to listen to it will listen to it. Same thing with singles. Everyone wants to. In a sense, I think it's also a good thing. You don't want to go and drop an album when you don't have any fan base, because you're not really going to have anyone that's going to listen to it. I think there's definitely a correct way to go about it, where drop some singles, maybe an EP, and then build up a little bit of hype around yourself, and then go for an album. Just because there's a lot of money and time that goes into an album, and it's always good to build up your catalog and your discography, but you want it to land and you want it to be heard. You want it to be felt.
I think that's really interesting what you said. So you think that would be the ideal strategy for anyone listening that's just starting out with music and stuff, to build the hype around yourself first, drop a few singles, like you said, maybe an EP, and then once you've got that hype, drop the album then. Yeah,
most definitely. I think that's one of the things that a lot of, being independent artists and not knowing anything, it's all learning curve that we all have to learn practically. You have to learn in the field because, no one tells us there's no recipe for it. And I'm not saying this is the recipe, but I'm just, that's my perspective on it. You know, there's an album's an investment when it comes to, how many beats you want to buy, how much studio time you want to spend, how much of your time's probably the most valuable part. How much of yourself do you want to put into it? And what sort of return you're going to make on it. If you're trying to get ears listening to your music, I think that's probably the best way to go about it. Start off small, singles, maybe some shows. And no one teaches you how to network or meet people. You just got to have feet on the ground and be at gigs, be at shows. Interact with people on social media. You nearly need to have a social media degree and a marketing degree to I by no means do I understand any of it, but I'm trying to learn a lot. As much as I'm trying to work on my craft, I'm trying to learn how social media works, engagement, marketing, all that sort of stuff. Because when it comes down to it, you're your own PR, you're your own marketing team, everything's in house. And if you want it to go somewhere, you've really got to hone things down to a fine tee, work out what works, and try and capitalize on it.
It's crazy how much is involved, right? Like that's a big part of the reason I started Discover Hip Hop is because I was listening to a lot of underground guys, and I realized it's like 50% or maybe even less, 50% the music, and the rest is, like you said, marketing, networking. It's business as well, because you're running a business at the end of the day. If you want to be able to put your music out and at least make a living off it, that's a full-time business, so there's so much involved that really it's not what an artist wants to be doing a lot of the time.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's, I think overall social media has been beneficial to artists in the sense that now you don't need a record label, now you can do it all yourself, but it definitely adds an extra level of complexity when it comes to trying to stand out too,
Yeah, that's right. And you want to have that point of indifference from everyone else. You want to stand out. And it's interesting, man, because you could be the next best thing, the dopest artist, and you could release a 20-track album on Spotify, have 10 followers on Instagram, and no one's going to hear your music. Doesn't matter, how good your craft is, how high the quality of your music is, but if you haven't got that, there's a lot of other work that you got to put in. It's just not writing the tracks and releasing the tracks, unfortunately.
Definitely. Yeah, and that's the reality of it, and it may suck or this or that, but it is the reality of it. So yeah, the sooner there's a lot of artists out there that I've come across doing this that fit into that exact category that you said, where their music is genuinely really good music, really, really good, and it's like professional quality. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but it's very, very good. But they just don't put enough or any effort into getting themselves out there on social media. Is there anyone that you've worked with or anyone that you know about close to you or anything that does struggle with that you do want to put their name out there?
Not particularly, man. I've been pretty lucky. The biggest thing is just networking. Networking. If I've been lucky, man. I think I've worked with I've worked with someone from every state of Australia except for Tasmania. I'm hoping to tick that off pretty soon with my mate Stretch One. Shout out Stretch. It's just, man, share your fan base, work with other people, get yourself heard, because at the end of the day, it's not about making music that people like. As long as you make studio quality music, there are people out there that like your music. It's networking and putting yourself out there and putting yourself in a position where the people that will like your music hear your music. So you don't need to conform to a certain style of music, a certain genre, just to be heard. There will be people that like your music as long as it's studio quality. You just need to put yourself in a situation where new people are hearing your music, people are finding your music, and a lot of people are going to hear your music and they don't like it. But that's the point. You just want to have, if 1 million people hear your music and 100 people like it, all you want to do is find the top 1% of people that love you. Because that top 1% of fans is worth more than the bottom 40%. because that top 1% will play your song 20 times a day. Whereas the top 40% won't like a post on Instagram or won't come to a show. The top 1% will buy your merch. The top 1% will buy a ticket to your gig. So you really want to, if someone messages you on Instagram and they say, "Oh, I love your music," man, send them a message back. So thanks for the support, Try and give back to the people that support you, because, otherwise no one will be able to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very useful information for a lot of people that are coming up. And I think that is important too, man. I think it is important to engage with your followers and like you said, talk back to them. There's a lot of people that they might look up to you, or they might admire what you're doing or something. And if they reach out to you, I mean, if you can, obviously you get to a point, a lot of people will get to a point where it's just too much to keep up with. But whenever you can, even Greeley, bro, like Greeley must get so many people reach out to him. But he's all like, whenever he can, I see him replying to comments. I know he goes through his messages every now and then when he can. He'll reply to people and stuff, and I think it is very important to build that loyalty and stuff. I was going to ask you, do you have any sort of suggestions or anything? Because I'm trying to learn myself with social media and stuff, bro. I never used it before this. I would use Facebook. I'd never used Instagram, TikTok, nothing. And so I had to learn how it works and this and that. Do you have any advice on how to get people to engage with what you're putting out there?
It's interesting, man. Like, I think it's finding the type of content that works. I mean, I found, like, for example, for myself, the short reels with a 16-bar verse rapping works great because I can drop that on a Sunday afternoon. Sunday afternoon's perfect because that's where you get the most engagement. Everyone's just had a big weekend on the piss. They're sitting at home, eating Uber Eats on the couch, scrolling on their phone. Sunday afternoon's always the busiest time for social media. You want to drop a song, drop it Saturday night, tell everyone Sunday that it's out. People will probably check it out. There are kick-ons. It's just, I try to look at things of how would I approach myself as a consumer. What's the type of stuff that I would like to engage with? What's the type of stuff that appeals to me? Because first and foremost, I'm more of a fan than an artist of Aussie music, man, or hip hop in general. I'll always be a fan over anything. It's just, I think short form content is the way for is the way of our generation now. I suppose it's hard to not be clickbaity, but you want to catch people's attention. It's just interesting. I like what you're doing with, I think the way that you're working with a lot of up and coming artists will do a great deal for your platform, because it's the same sense in collaborating with someone. You're sharing a fan base. So you're helping that artist by exposing them to your following, and in turn, they're doing the same for yourself. So they're going to help build your platform.
Yeah, thanks, bro. Yeah, that's the idea behind it, because I think if you look at any of the leading artists or media outlets in the hip hop industry in Australia, like some of them have hundreds of thousands of followers, right? So there's the potential, like there's hundreds of thousands of people in Australia that like Aussie hip hop. And it's like you were saying, it's like, okay, well, how do you connect those, whether it's tens or hundreds of thousands of people that are going to like your stuff with your stuff? How do you connect that? And I'm still trying to work all that out, man. But I think that's one way that's working is, just, collaborating with up and coming artists. And like you said, sharing the reach. And that's a priority of mine, Discover Hip Hop. I was saying this to Blue Tongue. Shout out Blue Tongue. If you don't know him, he's a mad rapper. I just got to change my camera battery. But I was saying to him, it's like a focus on the up and comers will 100% always be a big part of Discover Hip Hop. And I've said that publicly now, so you can fucking hold me to that. But, I think if you're about your Oz hip hop, like you say, you are and stuff, like if you're about your Oz hip hop and you're about that shit, then you're about the fucking underground scene. You're about the art form. You're about people putting in the work. And I think that's what's important, is to stick to what you claim to be about,
Definitely. And I think that's how the real heads, like the real hip hop heads, think. Well, I definitely think is I want to hear it all, because I want to. There's going to be a lot of stuff that I don't like, but I want to dig through it all and find the stuff that I like, because it's new. We still have a very small scene. There's still not a great deal of Australian music in comparison to a lot of international markets. So you can dig through everything and find everything you like, and pick and choose, find the artists you like, and now you can wait for the next drop. Now you can follow along and see what the next thing they're working on. It's definitely gotten a lot bigger. There's definitely a lot of new artists now, but I mean, that's only going to benefit our music scene, make it more competitive. There's more people doing it, so there's more people pushed to excel, you know? Yeah, everyone starts off as a nobody when it comes to music.
Yeah, 100%, bro. What do you think about the Oz hip hop media industry? Because, well, just in terms of how much is out there, how much competition is out there, the standard and quality compared to other countries and stuff.
I think with what we have, we probably could do with a little bit more, but I think it's still sort of in a healthy bracket. I see a lot of young artists that aren't a fan of dudes like Wings with Take Flight because they go, oh, this guy doesn't support up and coming artists, or I'm like, at the end of the day, his platform is they do things like this. The gig that you went to the other night, they do things like these open mics, and I was lucky enough to be put on one of them at one of his Take Flight nights early this year.
Awesome.
But you know, at the end of the day, it's similar to a newspaper. You can't write a whole newspaper full of articles that no one knows, unfortunately, what the plot, who the main character is about. So in a sense, there's that form of music media. There's a lot of pages on Instagram that prey on a lot of up and coming artists. They claim to be, music promotion pages and Oz rap news pages, and they're just an Instagram page with 20,000 fake followers. And they get these young artists to, pay $150 for a shared post. And if you're an artist and you're listening and you take anything away from this, do not pay any Instagram page money to promote your music. You'll receive, if you really want to pay for promotion, pay Instagram to run an ad and get someone to do a one-take video of you rapping a 16-bar verse or talking about your album or something. That will return more interest in your music than any of these paid promotional Instagram pages, because a lot of their followers are bought and fake, and it's just a scam. To be honest, man, I think you're one of the only platforms that I've come across that are really heavy on the supporting of up and coming artists thus far.
Thanks, bro.
I know there are a couple of those promotional pages that are genuine, that do promote dudes and try and they want to be a news source for the Oz music scene. But I think the easy way to tell is the genuine ones aren't really the ones asking for money to share your content and try and get you out there. They're not trying to make a quick buck off you. Exactly.
And that's exactly why I'll never charge or never accept money for people to come on the podcast, for people to get me to check out their tracks or anything like that, because I'm only going to chat to people that I want to chat to. Because if I don't, exactly what you just said, it's not genuine and it's not creating engaging content. And I've noticed a lot of pages that seem to be what you're talking about. I didn't realize that they're fake followers, because but it makes sense because I've checked out their profile and I'll be like, oh, okay, all you do is post like a photo of this artist saying, check them out. And I'm like, how is this, like, why do people like this? Why are people engaging with this? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, I think a big thing that young artists fall into the trap of is, these pages do end up with some of the bigger names in Australia following them, because what they'll do is they'll set up the Instagram page and then they'll post a heap of curses content, or they'll post a heap of chilliness content, and some of it will get through to Chillinit or Cursor, and they'll see it, and then, this young fella's helping promote my music, I'll give him a follow. And they end up with 30 or 40 followers of rappers, and these young fellas think, if I pay for a promo on this page, my stuff's up there with all these other guys that, they follow this page. It's a genuine page, and it's just a bit of a money grab and a trap. It's
so grubby, man, that there's all that sort of stuff out there. You know what I mean? It's a shame that people aren't just prepared to put in the work. and create something real. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Unfortunately, man, I think it's always going to happen in every industry. There's always going to be someone looking for a quick buck and a quick earn. But I think longevity shows when it comes to that kind of thing. A lot of you can only piss in your own pocket for so long, and you're only doing yourself a disservice at the end of the day if you're trying to make a quick buck off other people. You're going to burn your bridges pretty quick, and you're going to have to look for another source of income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you got any advice for up and coming artists on how to monetize their work, other than obviously just money through streams?
Honestly, I'm still trying to work that out myself. But I think the route that I'm gonna really try to take is, now that I think since my album drop, I've really sort of started to build a bit bigger fan base. I would like to start working with merch. I've got a lot of crazy ideas. I've got like some really cool Aussie visual artists in Brisbane, that I want to work with, that I've been talking with, and yeah, man, just I want to provide a physical product that people can hold in their hands. And I think that that kind of transaction sticks with people a lot more too, as opposed to just listening to a stream on streaming services. And I think, even if it's a CD, if I've got to go stand down in the valley and sell $10 CDs, you'll always make more money doing that kind of thing than streams and gigs. Putting a gig on, for young fellas, if you've got mates that rap, if you've got 4 mates that rap, you can put a gig on. Each of your 4 mates will have 20 associates of theirs that I'm sure will come to the gig that may not know you, and you'll probably have 20 that may not know them. There's 20 people per person. There's 5 people in the group. That's 100 people. I can't speak on other cities, but I mean, somewhere like Fortitude Valley, you can hire a venue for a Friday night or a Saturday night, anywhere between $600 to $1,000. If you sell 50 tickets at $20 a head, you've covered your venue expenses for $1,000. Pay a DJ $100 for the night. It's $1,100 for that. Well, there's places that look for $600, $700 for the night, and then any ticket sales over the top of that's your profit. I'll be looking to put on a gig with with a couple of my boys in my crew coming towards the end of the year. Dead Syndicate boys, shout out Chef and Hines. Yeah, man, we're just, I've like I said before with my networking, I've worked pretty well in getting onto a lot of big shows. In big shows in a term for myself, I've supported a lot of my idols. I've seen my idols become my peers, and now it's sort of time for us to start putting on our gigs,
Nice, bro. Awesome.
Yeah.
So you reckon that's the sort of route to go? Would you suggest trying to be an opener for a lot of people first and then do your own shows, or can people jump right into their own shows?
I would personally try doing some. I would definitely go with opening sets, just because that's where you find your stage presence. I might have done 6 or 7 shows over the course of the past 12 months, and I'm only just finding my stage presence and only just really getting down to a fine tee how I want to perform on stage. It takes time. Doesn't matter how much you rap in front of the mirror. You just got to be on stage doing it, and you got to learn the hard way and do the hard yards. And I think it's probably a better way to do it as an opener than it is for your own gig. Because if your name's on the flyer, you want to really be bringing that product to the people. At the end of the day, people are paying a fee to come see you. You want to be performative. You want to give those people the entertainment that they've paid for.
Yeah, nice. So whereas if you're opening for someone, it's not necessarily your audience. So if you do have a shit set and you stuff up and you forget whatever, at the end of the day, it makes the headliner look better, and it's not too much of an impact for your career.
Yeah, definitely. And in a sense too, I mean, live gigs are another really good way to build up an audience. If you were to go straight off the bat and do your own shows, I'm sure you could probably, a lot of dudes could probably turn out some big crowds based off, their social media or their music following. But it's a great way to get that exposure before you start going out on your own. You gotta learn to crawl before you walk too. Everyone's got to be an opener. It's a humbling experience. You got to play the empty crowds before you play the full crowds.
And it's going to make you appreciate those full crowds, right?
Most definitely, yeah. Most definitely.
Yeah. Bro, I get what you're saying there with live shows being a great way to grow an audience, because I think if you can put on a great live show, that can be more memorable than 1,000 social media clips and this and that. I went and saw Bliss and Eso a while ago, and I'd never heard of Ivan Ooze beforehand, but he opened for them, right?
Yeah.
And have you ever seen him live?
I've never seen him live. Actually, I think I might have back in the day, man. Shout out Ivan. I think I was talking to him a tiny bit the other day, man. About one of his videos. Like I think he drops like a reel a day. Oh, not reel a day, sorry, reel a week, man. He's insane, man. I can only imagine what he'd be like live.
I don't think I've ever seen a fucking better live performance, honestly. Just like his energy, bro, it's unmatched. It's insane. He's jumping around the stage. He's getting in your face. He's just like, I can't even put it into words how fucking insane it was to see him. It was just insane. The energy was insane. The engagement, he got everyone's attention. And he's at a Bliss and Eso show. Like, if you're at a Bliss and Eso show, no one gives a shit who's opening. We're just here for Bliss and Eso. But fuck, man, after seeing him, I was like, because I couldn't hear his name when he said, "Oh yeah, I'm whatever," and then here's Bliss and Eso. I was like, "Fuck, what's his name?" But it took me ages to figure out who he was. But eventually, I saw him on social media, and I was like, "Oh, that's him." And I will never forget that. You know what I mean? And so, just like you were saying, if you can put on a show like that, even as an opener, man, people are going to remember that.
Yeah, man, definitely. And man, the more energy that, like Ivan's energy obviously stuck with you. I've, in my early stages of overcoming like a bit of stage fright and learning how to have stage presence and being on stage, man, I've tanked sets. Everyone tanks sets. It's all part of learning. But when I found the best way for it, the more you feel your music on stage, the more you believe in what you're saying, the more you convey what you're saying with emotion and energy, that's exactly how the people in front of you will react. If you're stale, and I mean, it's different depending on what energy your music holds, but as long as you hold the energy that you want to receive, that's generally what will happen.
Interesting. That's actually a very interesting point. That show I went to yesterday, and this is partly not her fault. I won't name her. I actually don't even remember who it was. But they had a bunch of artists, like male rappers, that were doing that drill style, that were just pumping you up with those heavy beats and like that, jumping around the stage. And the vibe was like fucking real high, right? And everyone was just up there dancing. And then straight after that, they brought on an act, and her music was like just slow and relaxing and kind of like love songs and it was just not the right order. Like, she obviously shouldn't have been put on after them. But by the same token, she kind of knew that, and she went up there with the attitude of I'm gonna tank. And she even said a few times like, "Oh, I'm sorry guys, like this is not the vibe." And it didn't do her any favors, I'm not, like, I would be no better, but I'm just saying that it's an interesting observation, because it definitely her attitude definitely had an impact on the crowd.
Yeah, definitely, man. And I think a lot of that can come down to event organizers too, the way that a set list is planned out, it can even happen with artists with an order of how they want to perform their songs. It doesn't have to necessarily be artist to artist. You don't want to open a set with the most crazy 3 tracks that you've got in your discography, and then come out with 6 of the most mellowed out, go to bed type songs. Because you've just built everyone's energy up, and now you've got fleas in a jar and you're trying to calm them all down. It's you see that a lot with festivals too, man. You go to a festival and someone's only there to see one artist, and the energy gets built up and everyone's going crazy, and then they just shift them off the stage, don't give everyone a chance to sort of calm down a bit, and the next artist comes on and you got artists getting booed and
I've been at festivals where that happens. Everyone's there to see a certain person, and straight afterwards, like as soon as they realize the set's over, the crowd just fucking disappears. Hey, and it's like, oh man, I feel so bad. And like you were saying, it's not even the artist, the following artist's fault. It's just a matter of ordering and organization and stuff. It's unfair. And that was
Yeah,
very much
man.
the case last night. As soon as like they said, oh, you know, we're going to bring the vibe down a bit. We've got an artist coming on that's going to play some like slower songs. And I said to my sister was there with me. I said to Kay, I said, oh, this is a bad idea that people are going to start walking off. And like a minute after I said that, people started walking off. And I was like, oh no, I feel so bad for it. But yeah. Man, I wanted to chat to you a little bit more after we finish this up, if you have time, about putting on a show. If you're
Yeah.
if you're happy to chat about it,
Yeah,
that'd be
definitely,
cool.
man. Definitely. Yeah,
Awesome.
definitely.
Is there anything you want to put out into the world? Anything you want to tell people? You mentioned you're working on a project. You want to put that out into the world? Your Instagram, things like that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've got a couple of big singles coming in the next month. One with my brother, young Osk.
I, I,
He's doing big
I've just
things. I don't know if you've come across him yet.
I just lost you there for a sec, bro. I heard you say
You
you've got
there?
a couple of singles coming up.
Yeah, yep, yeah. I got a couple of singles coming. One with my brother, young Osk, young fella out of Toowoomba. I grew up out of Toowoomba, so he's from the area. Big link up coming with Shadow, another single dropping. So, yeah, man. I don't know. I've got a lot of music in my back pocket at the moment, and I'm just trying to construct it in a manner that how I want to release it. So I'm jumping back on a bit of a trap tip, going away from the boom bap for a couple joints. I don't know if I want to release it as an EP or, but I've also got 5 or 6 of that Timos boom bap type grimy shit I'm sitting on as well. That's probably going to be building into this next album. I think the next album's going to be a little bit smaller. I'm going to refine it a little bit more. Just keep making music, man. You got to write the bad songs to get the good ones. Just write all the bad ones and pick the good ones out of it. That's the way I see it. But yeah, man, I'm just keep working. Try not to flood the music too much, put too much music out. Give people some time to consume what I've been releasing. But yeah, definitely just continue what I'm doing, man. More shows. I'm going to be living down in Melbourne soon.
Oh, cool, bro. I'm moving to Melbourne too. That's awesome.
There you go, man. I'm making a move probably at the end of the year. I've got a missus. Shout out Michaela. I'm moving down with Michaela. So, yeah, looking to get down at the end of the year, man. I'd like to put some shows on in Brisbane before it goes. So, yeah, it's just organising everything, man. Yeah, and getting down to Melbourne and taking on Melbourne City. I built a bit of a name for myself in Brisbane now, so it's time to take it in state, I think.
That's awesome, bro. Yeah, I think Melbourne's the place to be. From what I've heard and from people I've spoken to, for artists and for myself. What's the scene like in Brisbane? Because I know there is a rich scene in Brisbane.
Yeah.
But do you find opportunities are limited in any way, or is it probably just the same as Melbourne? Or
honestly, man, I used to think that opportunities were limited in Brisbane, but honestly, it's kind of like the perfect storm. It's it's a capital of the state. So there's every artist that does a national tours Brisbane.
mm-hmm.
So every big artist that comes to Brisbane, you have an opportunity to get on an opening set. Fortitude Valley is probably one of the biggest areas for live music and live venues. There's cheap venues for live music. It's an awesome spot, man. There's awesome opportunity. Nothing's holding anyone back. There's a lot of dudes. There's a lot of studios. There's a lot of people, but it's still small enough that you don't get lost in the numbers.
Interesting.
I've had, I've gone back and forth with myself with wanting to go to Melbourne, just because there's just so much. There's just such a volume, but I'm always going to rep Brizzy. Brizzy's home for me. I'm always going to be a Brizzy artist. And, it's probably not going to be a long-term thing for me down there. I'm not going to live down there the rest of my life, but it'll be good to go down there and network and meet new people. And I'll be a lot closer to places like Sydney and, South Australia. So I'll have opportunities to do a lot more interstate stuff. But yeah, man, Brizzy's a really good mixing pot. There's a lot of different people working in Brizzy. There's a lot of diversity in Brisbane. And yeah, it's good because that small scene sort of makes it, I know there's a lot more opportunity there. And I suppose there's a lot of the big names are moving to Queensland. Chillin' lives on the Gold Coast now. I think Huskii lives on the Goldie now. Forte lives in Brizzy. Like a lot of these dudes now sort of gravitated up towards the warmer weather. I think they see the cold.
Bro, that's the one thing I'm worried about with Melbourne. You know, like I've heard a lot about it. Even before I started Discover Hip Hop, I was planning to move there, just because it's a creative place. You know, it seems to be a nice place, and I've heard lots of good things. But bro, I used to live in Orange in New South Wales, and it gets
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I've been to Orange, man. It's freezing.
it's fucked, man. It's too much, and that like I hated that about Orange. That was one of the things I hated was the cold. So it'd be interesting to see how Melbourne goes for the cold.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we'll see.
I don't think it gets too bad, man. I don't think it gets as cold as Orange, and around Stanthorpe, and I've spent a bit of time around those ways. But yeah, I think it's you get 4 seasons in a day type of thing.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah, yeah,
so
man.
what did you get out to Orange for, bro?
I was actually before I started working for FIFO, man. I was a house painter.
Oh, true.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so that's my trade. Doing a lot of traveling around, painting houses, and yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of new construction in Orange. There is now, and there has been for like the last 4 years or so.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Fucking freezing.
yeah, yeah, bro. It's not good. That's where I grew up. That's where I used to live out
Oh,
there.
true.
Yeah. It's an interesting town, man. We won't get into it, but maybe another day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good place to get out of. But all right, bro. I think we might leave it at that, unless there's anything else you want to put out there or chat about.
Oh, that's all good, man. That's good with me. Yeah, I'm happy with that, man. Thank you for having me on.
No worries, bro. It's been great. It's been good to get to know you. It's been good to hopefully give the listeners a chance to get to know Timos and hopefully, to get a bit more eyes on your stuff as well.
Hey, most definitely, man. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Hold up, wait. I grab my shit while I'm doing my dance. Got me some G's while I'm sagging my pants. Now we don't fuck with them, mate, for discussion. I'm stacking his cheese cause he stick to the plan. Hey, just stick to the plan. One call. I'ma have the lads at the front door. Say they done more, what they run for. Ain't pump shit, what the fuck he got a gun for? Lab, like what? R.I.P. Jordan. Rest in peace, God. I'm sick of the death of my team. I'm missing my brothers, they should be by my side. Free my brother Big Willie, yeah. Free my bro Gage. Free all the lads at the cage. They gone for a bit, but I'm counting the days. Sick of the gronks, sick of the games. Sick of the chat cons, it's dropping my name. Sick of the chats, I get back to the rats. Cause I ain't with that shit, but just stick to your lane.